Hi everyone. In this video, I'll show you how to create and edit local holdings records for multi-part monographs in MARC21 using WorldShare Record Manager. So let's say I have a 2-volume set, the Encyclopedia of Evolution, and I want to add this to my collection. So I've logged into WMS and now I've selected metadata, and then I'll select Record Manager. The first thing I'll need to do is find a record for the 2-volume set. I'll leave the data type set to bibliographic records, and the scope by default is set to all WorldCat, which is what I want since I have not added holdings for this title before. Next, I'll select the ISBN index and I'll enter the ISBN in the text box. And then I'll click Search. My search has retrieved 35 records. I'll use the facets on the left to limit my search. So I'll select English for the language of cataloging. And now I have just 16 records in my results list. I'll also limit by the format, print books, since I'm looking for a print book record, and that gets me down to just 11 records. I can see the first record is a PCC, Program for Cooperative Cataloging Record, and it's a full-level record. If I hover over the blue information icon, I can see some of the bibliographic information. The publication information matches the item I have, and the physical description indicates this is a record for the 2-volume set. To see the full bibliographic record, I'll click on the title, and I can review the full record. To start adding my holdings, I'll go to the Record menu, and then on the LHR submenu, I'll select Derive, which will allow me to use the MARC21 template to add my holdings. First, I'll expand the leader, the 000 field, by clicking the arrow next to the tag. The record status is already set to new since I'm creating a new LHR. Since I'm adding holdings for a multi-part monograph, a 2-volume set, I need to change the type of record. So I'll open the drop-down and select V, Multi-Part Item Holdings. For the encoding level, I'll open the drop-down and select Holdings Level 3, since I'm going to enter the highest level of enumeration for the set. For information in record, I'll leave this set to I. Item information is in the record, since I'll be barcoding the 2 volumes. Then I'll click Done to save my changes to the leader. Next, I'll expand the 007. And for specific material designation, I'll select A, Regular Print. And then I'll click Done to save the 007. Next, I'll expand the 008. For receipt or acquisition status, I'll change this from unknown to received and complete. For the method of acquisition, I'll change this to P, purchase. For completeness, 4, not applicable, should only be used for single-part monographs. Since this is a 2-volume set, and I have both volumes, I'll change it to 1, complete. I'll leave the other fields in the 008 at their defaults, and then I'll click Done to save my changes. Next, I'll expand the 852. This is where the location and call number will go. For the first indicator, I'll select Library of Congress for my classification scheme. I'll leave the second indicator, Shelving Order, at the default, no information provided. Subfield A is my OCLC symbol, and it is already populated by the system. Subfield B, the sublocation or collection, is set to my default, the main branch. But I could change this by clicking the drop-down if these volumes were to be added to a different branch location. Next, I need to add my shelving location, which is subfield C, and it is not included in the template. So I'll click the green circle to add a subfield, and then I'll open the Select a Subfield drop-down, and I'll select C, Shelving Location. And then I'll select my main reference shelving location. Subfield H and Subfield I for the classification and item part or cutter are brought over from the bibliographic record. Since I'm profiled for Library of Congress, the system would first look in a 090 field for a local LC call number if I've added one. If not, it would look for an LC call number in 050. I'll click Done to save my changes to the 852. Now I'm ready to start adding the 2 volumes. I'm going to use the coded pairs, 853 and 863, for the captions and values for these volumes. So I'll click the green circle to add a field. and then I'll type 853 in the tag box. When I click outside of the field, the arrow appears which I can click to expand the field. For the indicators, I'll select 3, unverified for both. You don't have to code for these. Then I'll click the Select a Subfield dropdown and select 8, field link and sequence number for the first subfield. And then I'll enter a 1. This means that this is my first captions field. I would only need another 853 if the captions changed, which can sometimes happen with serials. But since this is a multi-part monograph and not a serial, and I have all the volumes for the set, that shouldn't be needed. Next, I'll click the green circle to add another subfield. And then I'll select subfield A, first level of enumeration. And I'll add the caption, V period. I'm not using chronology field since I've included the date in the call number, since it's the same publication date for all the volumes in the set. So I'll click Done to save my changes. Next, I need to add an 863 for each of the volumes. This is where I'll enter the values for these volumes and link them to the 853 caption field I just created. So I'll click the green circle to add another field. I'll enter 863 in the tag box, and then I'll click the arrow to expand the field. For the first indicator, I'll again select Holdings Level 3. For the second indicator, I'll leave the set to No Information Provided. Then I'll click the Select a Subfield dropdown and select 8, field link and sequence number. I'll enter 1.1. The first one is linking this back to the 853 caption field. And the second one is an indication that this is my first 863 field. I'll click the green circle to add another subfield, and then I'll select subfield A, first level of enumeration. And this is where I'll enter the value for the first volume. So I'll enter 1. And again, I'm not using the chronology subfields. So I'll click Done to save my changes. Next, I'll click the green circle to add the second 863 for my second volume. I'll type 863 in the tag box, and then I'll expand the field. Again, I'll change the first indicator to Holdings Level 3. And then I'll click the subfield dropdown and select subfield 8, field link and sequence number. And then in the text box, I'll type 1.2. The 1 links this back to the 853 caption field. And the 2 is an indication that this is the second 863. I'll click the green circle again to add another subfield, and I'll select subfield A, first level of enumeration. And I'll enter 2 for volume 2. And then I'll click Done to save my changes. Finally, I want to barcode these volumes, and they'll need to be entered in 876 fields. So I'll expand the 876 in the template. The barcode I'm adding on volume 1 will go in subfield P, piece designation. So I'll scan the barcode I'm putting on volume 1. I also need subfield 8, the linking field, which will link this barcode to the correct volume. So I'll click the green circle to add a subfield, and then I'll select 8, field link and sequence number. And here I'll enter the same thing that is in subfield 8 for the first 863, which is for volume 1. So I'll enter 1.1, and this will link the barcode to volume 1. I'll also click the up arrow next to subfield 8 to move it up, since the linking subfield should come first. Then I'll click Done to save my changes. Finally, I'll add another 876 for volume 2. I'll select subfield 8, the linking field. And I'll enter 1.2, which will link the barcode I'll enter to volume 2. Then I'll add subfield P for the barcode, and I'll scan the barcode for volume 2. And then I'll click Done to save my changes. Next, I'll go to the Record menu and select Validate to confirm that I don't have any incorrect codes and have included required fields and so on. And the system confirms it has validated the LHR. The last step is to save the LHR. So I'll click Save. Since I'm a WMS library, I have the option to change the audience level for this LHR from my default, all users, to a more restrictive audience that can view this, such as my library users, my authenticated users, or my library staff. I'll leave it set to my default audience level, all users. And then I'll click Set. and the system confirms it has saved the LHR. To view this in Discovery, I'll go to the Record menu and select View in WorldCat Discovery. And if I click Two available at one location, you can see the details for the 2 volumes. Optionally, I can add a summary statement to indicate that I have the 2 volumes on the first screen that displays. To do this, I'll go back to the LHR and I'll click on the link to the related bibliographic record. Scrolling down to the bottom of the bibliographic record, I can see the LHR I just created. And I could click on the pencil icon to view the complete MARC local holdings record if I need to edit anything. The summary statement by default says local holdings available. To edit this, I can manually type in the text box, or I can use the Build Summary service. To use the summary service, I'll click Build Automated Summary. And the system suggests a summary that reads Volume 1 to Volume 2. I'll click Use Summary Service, and then click Save. And the system confirms it has updated the LHR summary data. Now if I go back to Discovery, it shows the summary on the first screen, indicating that my library has Volume 1 and 2. If you have questions, please go to help.oclc.org and click Contact OCLC Support for support information for your region. Thanks for watching.